It is Monday. It is 1 p.m. It is time for the Monday message. So excited to be chatting with everybody today. This is always one of my favorite weeks of the year because it's a week of reflection and it's a week of projection, meaning we can reflect back on what was this year, what we liked, what we didn't like, but we can project forward what we're going to do with 2026. Here's the thing. Each year, the rest of the world acts with absolute arrogance. Here's what I mean by that. They act with absolute arrogance because they don't attack the year like it matters. Now, why is it arrogant to not attack the year like it matters? It's arrogant to not attack the year like it matters because that's assuming that the universe owes you a 2027. That's assuming the universe owes you a 2027. But if you will act like 2026 is all we got, like 2026 is whatever we get done, this is after 2026, this time next year, December 31st, 2026, the federal government is going to outlaw you growing your business. Act like that's a fact. You say, is that going to happen? Here's the deal. All the most successful people I know, all the high performers, they play games with themselves like that all the time. They play games with themselves like that all the time to move them in the right direction. So that's what today's call is going to be all about, so that we come into 2026 absolutely on fire. Because here's what Holly and I want from the bottom of our heart. From the bottom of our heart, we want 2026 to be the best year in the history of your family. So let's get into our recognition. I know we don't have complete data because of the short week from last week with the 2 days that the carriers were closed, and then some of the carriers, the days that they were closed fell on the days that we normally get data, so the data is fairly incomplete this week, but I want to get the recognition out there that we can, and then we'll catch up with the rest of it next week. So all producers over 1,000. You got Cleo, Rachel, Merlene, Irma Moss Bryant, Rogers and Kim, Brian Allendorf. We got Jose, we got Lugino, we got Jude, Adam Burrs, we got Tyler. I slid in a few apps before Christmas last week. Top 5 weekly submitted. Look at this. So here's the rest of the insurance, and this is with incomplete data. That's what's so crazy. That's what's so crazy. The rest of the insurance industry says you can't sell the week of Christmas. We say to heck with that. We can sell any time we want. You heard Mimi last week on the call. She said, all you got to do is just put in more work around the holidays to get the same sales volume. It's not complicated. So let's look at our top 5. Jeremico Edwards putting in $5,713.56. We got Robert putting in $6,000. We got Darla putting in $6,221. Mike Guerra putting in $7,492.20. And Adina Decker leading the way last week with $27,500 in submitted premium last week alone. Way to go, Adina. Next slide. Top 5 paychecks. And again, this was with a banking holiday, right? So this was missing a deposit. This is so crazy. I love this. Top 5 paychecks last week. Irma Moss Bryant deposited $4,802.36. Adam Burge deposited $6,365.90. Tom Payne deposited $6,437.01. Cleo, look at Cleo, $6,494.78 deposited last week on a 3-day week. On a 3-day week of deposits. That's crazy. So because we missed with Christmas following Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, I'm so proud of you, Cleo. Way to go. Mike Guerra, top paycheck last week, $7,242.14 deposited. Not approved, not submitted, not projected. Actually deposited on a short week. I love it. Recruiting last week, still got recruiting done. The base shop putting in 2 completed fast tracks. Rogers and Kim putting in 1. Cleo putting in a direct contract. Base shop putting in 2. Rogers and Kim putting people in licensing. Guys, I know we had a short week last week. I'm proud of everybody that went out and made stuff happen last week. Upcoming travel, I will be in Detroit January 12th. I will be in Nashville, Tennessee, January 13th. National Convention, Dallas, Texas, January 22nd through the 25th. Guys, I'm telling you, if you haven't made your mind up yet, now's the time to make your mind up. I'm just telling you, the harder it is for you to get there, the more you will get out of it. It will, if you could buy 12 months of life, would you buy it? Absolutely, no brainer. That's what you're doing by being at the National Convention. You're buying what it would take you 12 months to learn. You're buying the emotional state that it would take you 12 months to get, and you're buying it over the course of a weekend. That is a no-brainer. And then Atlanta, February 4th, working on more travel, getting my first quarter tightened up. Where do you have sharp new people? Tell me where you got sharp new people. I will get there, and I will invest my time to make sure that we get your team growing 2026. All right, top 5 year-to-date producers. We still got a little data to clear. Mark Hutchison popping into the top 5. Kath Truelove, way to go, Kath. $262,870.25. Jeremico sitting at $279,516.97. David Helgeson sitting at $337,516.97. And Adam Burge sitting at $413,842.29. Issue paid premium. Love it. I love it. Let's go ahead and bring Adam on, Chandler. And I want to keep it just like we did last week, where we're both on talking the whole time. Last week we had Mimi Ramiro on the call. If you missed that call, you need to go back and watch that call. It was phenomenal. The reason I had Mimi on the call last week is she's the fastest growing organization on the team. She is growing faster than she has ever grown. So why this week I go to Adam Burge? Why this past year in 2026 he made more money in 2025 than he's ever made before. So here's what I'm coming at you with a 1-2 punch over the last 2 weeks. Why not you? Why not let 2026 be the year that you grow faster than you've ever grown before, that you grow faster than the rest of the company? Why not? Why not make 2026 the year that you make the most money you've ever made in a calendar year before? We've got 2 amazing examples between last week and this week. I'm just trying to get your soul stirred. I'm trying to get you thinking bigger. I'm trying to get you thinking, man, what if I worked hard and had a breakthrough year? What could that fix in my life? What could that make better in my life? How much money could I give away, right? What could I take care of if I just made this my year, like Mimi and like Adam made 2025 their year? I'm telling you, they'll both tell you the same thing. They don't have super magical powers. What they do have super magical power of, though, is discipline and focus. And that's what I really want to talk about today is building out your 2026 so that the structure's there. Because here's what a lot of people do. Hang on. Still getting my voice back. Adam, I had pink eye like 3 weeks ago. Then I chased it with an upper respiratory.
I didn't have the pink eye, but I've had the flu for like a month. I'm just now starting to kind of feel better. But if I start giggling or laughing, I'm gonna break out coughing.
Well, hey, we'll be in it together. We'll be in it together, brother. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, it's because I want the structure to be right? Because you have to have a structure to have predictability. The reason most people don't hit their goals is there's no structure in place, so it's not predictable. So if they do hit any of their goals, it's actually just a fluke. It just happened to happen. So that's why I sent the outline over, Adam, and we can talk through this, because here's what I want. I want this to be the year that they start stacking wins and start stacking confidence. Because here's what happens to most people. They're going to set a New Year's resolution, right? Everybody knows. And they're going to fail. And so guess what they stack? They stack a loss and they deplete their self-esteem. See, I don't want that for anybody under my care. I want everybody under my care to stack wins and stack self-esteem. And that's why I want to do a call this week so that everybody can get their structure together so that we can attack this thing and make 2026 the best year in our history and the best year in the history of the families that make up our team. So here's the first thing we want to talk about. The number one problem with most goals is that they're vague. They're goals that don't have, like if you're looking at an apple, it's pretty clear if it's an apple or if it's not an apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people's goals don't have that clarity. So it's like, did I accomplish it? Did I not accomplish it? I want to sell more. This year I'm gonna recruit this year. This year I'm going to do more volume through my team. They're so vague. Can you talk to us a little bit
Yeah,
about that, Adam?
that reminds me of the expression, "Goal without a date is just a dream." I think we've all heard that before, and I did that myself before when I first started the business. I was so focused on trying to learn, how to sell insurance that I kind of lost sight of the big picture because, there's really more to this business than just that. It's a big part of it, of course, but there's a lot more to it than just that. So for 2025, for an example, I set the goal that I was definitely going to get my first promotion, or agency manager, get my ring in 2025. I'd set that goal back in December of last year. I think you and I remember talking, having that conversation together that this was going to be the year for me. And then my other goal was to write at least 4 million in annuities. And I accomplished both of those goals this year, but I had to have it clear in mind what it was I was going to do specifically and by when. And that goes to the point that you were making.
And see that. So what that does, Adam, is it sets. We've been reading our scaling book. It sets your floor so much higher, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
and I promise you, there were people that their goal last year was to write more annuities. I'm
Mhm.
going to write more annuities. The problem is that's so vague, it doesn't scream at you for action.
Right.
When you said, I'm going to write 4 million in annuities, that's crystal clear. Either you write 4 million or you don't, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
a definite measurement. And, and,
Mhm.
and that's why that works. And so if you're out there and you're going, my goal last year was to write more annuities and I didn't, we're identifying the problem. We've got to
Right.
get that crystal clear specificity. On
And
the
you've
other
also
side
got
of
to
the
kind
building
of,
side, right? Either
yeah,
you hit
exactly.
agency manager or you didn't. There's no,
That's an excellent point.
there's
Yeah,
no,
that's an excellent point. I don't mean to interrupt you. Forgive me.
no,
There's a
go
little bit
ahead.
of a lag
Jump in, man.
on my end. Forgive me. But
This is a,
yeah, I
this is
was
an
even
open
thinking
dialogue, brother.
about, I was even thinking too about like, recruiting. I was talking with Adam about this last week. So this year I hit top 30 agents in recruiting. For me, that's quite a lot of people say top 30. Yeah, okay. I get it. It could be better. But for me, I was not even on the map in 2024. Recruiting was like non-existent virtually for me. So next year, the goal is, Adam and I were talking, top five. I think really in 2026, I'll be able to be one of the top five recruiters in the company. If I'm top 30 this year, top five should be. But see, that's a very specific goal. And then what we did, we had to break down the numbers. Okay, well, how many then does that mean I need to have every week, every month, every quarter, every 6 months? But you got to have a specific goal in mind. Otherwise, it's just, you're just leaving it up to chance and it may or may not happen. Probably won't. Hmm. 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 Yeah. To go to that point, that's an interesting point you make there because I was doing some reading recently about health, and I found out that 20% of our daily caloric intake goes toward to our brain alone. The energy that 20% of our caloric intake generates goes to just our brain alone. And our brain is what, an eighth of a pound or something like that. It doesn't weigh very much. It's mostly water, but yet that much calories goes towards our brain. So our brain can do some heavy lifting. It can do a lot of calculating, a lot of work. But the challenge is sometimes we get into this feeling where it's uncomfortable, and we tend to give our mind a break. And we don't want to give our brain a break. It doesn't need a break. If you give it things to do, it will do those things. And you got to live where it's uncomfortable because that means you're growing. You're actually using your brain to a fuller capacity.
And just I know my mic went out for a little bit. I heard on the thing. Well, what I was saying that led into what Adam talked about is most people give their brain tiny, weak behind little problems to solve. Like, I'm going to grow 10% this year. Okay. You know, your brain would be happy to take on you going 10x. Your brain would be happy to take on you doubling. But you give the brain a tiny little incremental growth thing, and it's like your brain's looking at you like, that's some weak sauce right there, man. I mean, I'll work on it because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm your brain. But God, I'd love some real work. If you got any real work you can pass my way, that'd be awesome. That's crazy that 20% of our calories go towards our brain. That's that makes sense though. I mean, now that you say it like that. So yeah, I mean, give your brain a big old problem. Don't just try and go from the top 30 to the top 20. Go to the top 5. Right? I love that. Don't just go. Last year he didn't say I'm gonna write. How much in annuities did you write the previous year, Adam? About $1 million, I think.
Yeah. The past 2 years, I was doing good to write $1 million by the end of the calendar year. Yeah.
So that's a 4x. Yeah. That's a 4x goal.
Right.
Does that make sense? That's why it works. That's why he made more money he's ever made, because he gave his brain something big to solve. So let's talk about this. The solution is we got to reverse engineer this thing. So what is the target? And so Adam gave us 2 good examples of his targets for this year, right? What is the target? Last year he set the target at $4 million in annuities and agency managers. So that's a crystal clear target. What he talked about was building back from that. Most people, here's the problem. The first problem we've already covered, right? Is that most people, they set vague goals. They set weak little goals. They set goals and then they hide them underneath the bushel basket. That way, in case it doesn't come true, they don't have to take any flack. But once you define a clear goal, the second problem people make is the goal is for the year, right?
Right.
What's the problem with setting the goal for the year? And that's it. What's the problem with that, Adam?
Well, the problem is it's so far away, you have no metric of whether or not you are actually achieving that goal. It needs to be broken down like by the month, and in some cases maybe even by the week, but by the month, by the quarter. What does it look like at your 6-month interval? Because now you only have 6 months left in the calendar year. So what's working? What isn't working? What did you do? What do you still need to do in order to meet your goal? It could be that things were kind of slow starting for whatever reason for the first month or 2 of the year. And so you didn't meet your goal at 6 months. That means now you have to make up the rest of that goal and what you're going to accomplish in the latter half of the calendar year. And that's, some metrics, something very specific. You have to define the target and then every quarter really evaluate whether or not you're hitting that goal.
Absolutely. That's what a lot of people do that with the trip, Adam. They missed the trip this year because they said, I'm going to win the trip this year. The only problem with that is it doesn't scream for action today. If I'm just going to win the trip this year, man, I don't really got to do much of nothing until about November. Right? And that's you can always tell when someone hasn't made it a priority because it's like the panic in November, right? So
I learned that lesson last year because I was focusing on some other things that were going on with the estate planning and learning that business, and I lost track of where I was in relation to the trip. And I won the trip, but I thought I had lost the extension because my production wasn't high enough because that last quarter of the year I wasn't paying attention to it. And I just made it under the wire. And I decided this year, I am not going to let that happen. I had that extension nailed down by October because I was not going to let that happen again.
Yep. So once you set that goal, so if it's winning the trip, if it's moving into the top 5 in recruiting, if it's $4 million in annuities, whatever that is, then you've got to have those quarterly checkpoints so you know where you're supposed to be at each checkpoint. And here's the thing. If you're behind, then you don't get to take any off days.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like that's the other thing that gets people is they'll be behind first quarter and then they don't change anything. They don't double down on anything. They don't eliminate something so they can enhance something. They just stay chugging along, and then by second quarter they're even further behind. By third quarter they're already talking about well, this year you see just the this year, I mean, we had the stuff, we had the thing, the Mercury was in retrograde, man. Like, there was so much, it was just bad this year. My birthday fell on a Tuesday, and that threw my whole year off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That they start by the end of third quarter, they're already talking that. So first
Right.
quarter, where you at? Each month, where you at? And then have weekly action. Where
I'll give you
you
an
want to
example.
adjust it if you start falling short is on the week, not on the month, not on the
Right.
quarter. If you
Right.
start falling back, you've got to adjust it on the week. And you have to have a solid structure for your week. Adam, you want to talk a little bit about like solid structure for a week? If an agent wants to hit the trip, if an agent wants
Yeah.
to, what does that solid? What are some things that have to be in that solid structure for the week?
Yeah. When I was doing final expense sales, I had a requirement that I had to have my first policy sold on Monday morning by noon. And if I didn't, I couldn't take lunch.
I get
And,
it.
yeah, and that's hard for me because it takes a lot of energy to fuel this machine. So for me not to eat lunch on time, here that was hard, and I didn't want to put myself in that position. So, but I knew that's what I needed to do to motivate myself to make sure that I had, you know, the ability to eat lunch on Monday. And then I had a goal. I thought to myself, okay, what are some of the other agents doing? I found very encouraging Mark Hutchison, very encouraging to me personally. Um, Mike Guerra, Nick Greco, very encouraging to me. I thought to myself, okay, these guys are doing $5,000 a week. I should be able to also do $5,000 a week because it is doable. It is achievable. And so I just had that goal starting on Monday. It got me off to a great start for the week. And then I started averaging then $20,000 a month, consistently after that. But that's to speak to your point, that's what you have to do sometimes to yourself.
Yeah, you put something on the line that means something
Right.
to you.
Right.
Put something on the line that means something to you, and have a clear thing. I love that. I have to have my first policy sold by noon Monday, or I don't eat lunch.
Mhm.
Hey, I have got to, and I mean got to, get to 10 recruits in the month, or I don't take a hot shower. I only take cold showers
Right.
until I hit my 10.
Yeah.
Right? Like put something on there. Put something at risk. Most people don't hit their goals. We keep moving down the chain of, like, I'm trying to get as finer and finer for you, right? Like, we talked
Right.
about the big one, which is the vagueness, and now we're kind of working to some finite stuff. Most people don't hit their goals because they never put anything at risk. Put something at risk that means something to you. Here's what I know. You and me, Adam, we're the same. It confuses me when other people act like they're not like us.
Mhm.
Here's how you and I are the same. We will move twice as fast out of fear of loss than we will towards promise of gain. That's how we work as human beings.
Yeah.
That's how we work. That's why, like, you call someone up and like, oh no, my health is great. I run 10 miles a day. And you're like, okay, when was the heart attack? Right? What happened? What scared you? Right? So here's the thing. That is what it is. People say, no, I'm altruistic. I move towards promise of gain. I hear you. I also move towards promise of gain, but I know fear of loss is a far stronger, quicker, it's faster acting. Fear of loss, now faster acting for your goals, right? So use it, right? Like, it's true. So
Right.
like we use gravity. We know gravity's true, so we utilize it. That's how we're able to accomplish really cool things as a species, because we don't argue with it. We go, okay, so if gravity's true, how can we use gravity to benefit ourselves? So it's true. You're going to move faster from fear of loss. So put something at risk. Put something at risk.
Mhm.
Put something off that you don't get to do
Right.
until you hit your goals. I love it. I love it.
One of my goals this year was to, if I reached 400,000, I was going to buy myself some citrus trees. That's just, something I enjoy doing, growing things. And so I did. So I have now 4 citrus trees and planters in my front porch. But it felt great to do that because, you set the goal and then you get the reward that you've been looking forward to, something that meant a lot to you personally.
Right? It's not like he had to. Well, I don't know how much citrus trees are, but I'm guessing it didn't cost
They're
like
not.
10 grand, right? You didn't have to like put
No,
10 grand to
right.
do it. So it doesn't
Maybe a couple
have to
$100.
be a big thing.
Right.
But what Adam said is so key. Whatever you put at risk It just has to be something that means something to you, something that you won't get to do, something that you will lose unless you hit your goal.
Right.
All right, let's talk more about let's talk about filtering. In your calendar, if there is something in your calendar that is not getting you towards that goal, it has got to go. Well, one of the things we talked about with the leadership team last week was, what elephants are you dragging around? What elephants are you dragging around? We got to let go of those. So when you look at your calendar, it's important to look at your calendar in honesty, not in what I think I do. What did I actually spend my time on this week? Where did that time go? And if it's not helping me towards my goals, it's got to go. It's got to go. So, for instance, there are things that every American does habitually that are not moving them towards their goals. Unless they eliminate those, then this New Year resolution they're about to set on Wednesday night is going to mean nothing. Because they're going to go back to the same exact actions that produce the same outcome. That's why most people don't move much in this life. The reason that you went from 1 million to 4x 4 million, and then you went from not recruiting to top 30 and agency manager, is because you did different things.
Right.
Talk to them a little bit about finding and eliminating things.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the biggest thing for me to eliminate was lead sources that weren't necessarily bad, but they weren't ideal. They weren't producing enough to justify either the expense, or the results were not what they were compared to other lead sources. And so instead of having 2, 3, 4 different lead sources out there, I looked at, okay, what are the ones that are producing consistently, irregardless of the price, but what are they producing consistently? And then I just got rid of the ones that were really just kind of a weight around my neck. They weren't changing my production. They were just taking time that I could have spent on other lead sources that were more productive. And that's very easy to do in this industry, is to think, well, maybe this will work and that will work. And maybe they do, but are they all equally successful? We'll find the ones that are the most successful and focus your energies on those, because otherwise you can find yourself kind of like being the dog distracted by a squirrel. You're going a million different directions and spending a lot of time on things that are not producing as well as they should for the amount of effort you're putting into them. And you've got then a year's gone by and you've got nothing to show for it. So that was key, is to really focus on the things that were working the best and use those, double down on those sources, those techniques, those things that are working for me personally. And that changed 2024, for me quite a bit, and 2025, because estate planning became this huge producer for me. And so I just got rid of everything else, because nothing was gonna come close to what estate planning could produce for me. And it gave Cindy and I a lot more freedom this year, because we just focused on that one thing that I knew had the best potential just from what was happening in 2024.
So what he's talking about, guys, is he started with final expense, added some stuff here, added a vendor there, and what he looked at was, why would I do any of that if I can do 100% estate planning?
Right.
Because be crystal clear, 100% estate planning is 100% what generates the highest premiums.
Right.
All the top producers.
No doubt, hands down.
Yeah, there's no, so you say, well, I know, but I still want to do a little. Okay, that's fine. Just know that that's gonna limit you.
Right.
So that's resources. What I also want to encourage you to do is to keep track of your time. When you look at the statistics of how much time Americans spend scrolling on social media, it is depressing. It is like, man, this is why everybody's so dumb. I mean, this is why everybody's so dumb. Just constant content consumers.
Right.
Right. What can you eliminate that? Well, I do like this. Okay. Well, then set a goal. I'm not allowed to. I can only scroll for 10 minutes, but only after I hit my goal. Right. What are you doing with your time? Where is your time going? I promise you, part of the reason Adam Burge wrote $4 million of annuities and you didn't is because of estate planning.
Right.
But he also is doing stuff with his time that others aren't. Does it make sense? So what I'm encouraging
Right.
you to do is weekly keep track of that time. Where is it going? Where are you spending it on? Because here's
Right.
what I know. Here's what I know. A little bit of sacrifice compiled over time creates amazing results.
Yeah.
If everybody is going to do extreme stuff January 1st, I'm going to only eat raw broccoli. I'm going to run 20 miles a day. I'm going to do 4 different workouts every single day. I'm going to be up at 3 a.m. It's too extreme.
It is.
Just
When I first got started doing final expense, my goal at first was just to get started at 8 a.m. To be like, I'm not saying get started like I was, doing other things and getting around to the 8 a.m. No, my butt was in the chair, my headphones were on, my leads were in front of me. I was dialing my first number at 8 a.m. And that was kind of a challenge for me because, being self-employed, you can get distracted by a lot of other things if you let yourself. But I started, just something that small. And who taught me that was you taught me that at boot camp when you had Brandon Manley giving some training on how it is that agents succeed and fail. And I learned that 8 a.m. That's an easy place to start.
it's the early wins, man. It's the early
Hmm.
wins and sticking to the structure. Um, Adam, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your example. Holly and I, obviously, we value our friendship with you and Cindy, and way to lead the estate planning for us this year. It's funny. I'm hearing you talk, and I'm just thinking about, God, it feels like forever ago that you were writing final expense, but it was only a little bit ago.
Yeah,
and,
right.
and now you 4 million in annuity, crazy deposits. Um,
Right.
but let's just back up and review the call just as we wind down, guys. And then I've got 4 big questions for you to be thinking about between now and next Monday when we get back together. So the first thing is set a very specific goal. Set an Adam Burge goal, 4 million in annuities. I'm going to hit this level. Set something that either you did or you didn't, and the whole world will know. Then build out a plan. If it's just something we're going to do this year, we're never going to get it done. Quarterly, monthly, weekly. In order for a goal to happen, it has to scream at you daily for action. And then motivation. Put something at risk. Put something at risk. Put something off. Hey, I don't get to do this until I have accomplished X. Now, Adam could have given in and not gotten to his goal and done the citrus trees earlier. But see, that's not what winners do. That's not what winners do. See, there can be no abundance living a life of constant compromise. You cannot create abundance living a life of constant compromise. That's one of the reasons I'm so proud of you, Adam. And then look at what you're doing. Reduce, you hear me say this all the time. Reduce so you can amplify. Eliminate so you can amplify. Reduce and eliminate wastes of time, wastes of resources so you can amplify. Everybody should be moving towards estate planning just as fast as humanly possible. I'm just telling you, I've never seen anything like it. It's mystifying to me when people don't jump in. I'm just mystified.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. So that was the tenets we talked about. Here's the 4 questions I want to give everybody to think about. What has to happen between now and next December 31st for 2026 to be considered a success? What has to happen? What does life look like this same exact time next year for you to look back and call 2026 a success? What has to happen? Here's the second question. What's your word for 2026? High performers have a word, they have a theme, they have an overarching word for each year. What is your word for 2026? Here's my third question. Can you hate enough to succeed? Can you hate enough to succeed? High performers hate well. And you say, well, hate's not the answer. Hear me out. Read Dr. Henry Cloud's book, 9 Things You Absolutely Must Do. High achievers hate extremely well. They feel strong emotions. Low achievers, they don't hate the situation they're in, right? They don't hate not winning the trip. They don't hate not having 50 grand in the bank. They don't hate. Everything is soft. So will you hate enough to succeed in 2026? Pick the stuff that you don't want to repeat and hate it. Hate it enough to succeed. And then the last question I'll give you, you're going to fight for one of two things as we get started. Are you going to fight for your limitations, or are you going to fight for your dreams? Most people are going to set a goal and then they're going to fight to keep their limitations. Well, I can't because, I'm not this, I'm not that, so I can't because. Hey, if you fight for your limitations, guess what? You'll be undefeated. You will win every time. If you fight for your limitations, you will win every time. The bad news is, what's the prize? Your limitations. Don't fight for your limitations, guys. Fight for your dreams. Here's what I know. Mimi has made a massive move over the second half of this year. A massive move that was rooted in discipline and focus. Adam and Cindy made massive moves this year. Why not you? Why not you? That's why we wanted to do these two calls back to back to give you two powerful examples of people that made big things happen this year on the team. Guys, Holly and I want 2026 to be the best year in the history of your family. We love you. Let's get out. Let's get after it. Thanks again, Adam.